I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it is you enjoy doing so much in
Who
this
knows?
room. Please take your time.
I'll see if it updates to say that I get paid for subbing for the Prime sub again. Oh, no more dialogue. Don't think there's any more down there.
Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
I'm very close to the boss's office now. I can't go to the bathroom. This is definitely different to last time I was here.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code.
I tried random buttons first.
Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Ooh, going down.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Why? I would escape the mind control?
But of course, Stanley thought better of it and realized he simply had to... Nope, still on board with death.
It'll free me from the mind control. Very long passage.
Was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Let's go down.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise,
well, I can't do anything.
His life had been of no consequence whatsoever.
I can't move.
Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Well.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Or not. The Stanley Parable.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
I'm free to walk wherever I want by looks. But since it's pitch black, you can't see anything.
When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
That's the first part from my office around to the room with the 2 doors. Office layout. This blueprint shows the office from the beginning of the game. The path from Stanley's office to the 2 doors was the first part of the game that was built. Sections have been added and altered throughout development, though the core layout remains almost identical to the first iteration. Corridor. The pacing of this opening section was important to get it right. This corridor has been moved and altered to make sure the player reaches the 2 doors in a good time. The 2 doors. The set of 2 open doors was the very first concrete piece of Stanley Parable's design. Once this room was created, the rest of the game emerged as an extension of it. An exploration of the contradiction this room posed. They sure are filing cabinets. Nature paintings? Are they really supposed to be paintings though? Stanley's computer? The office. Button sounds. A selection of the sounds used throughout the game when buttons are pressed. Each sound is a mix of a keyboard stroke and a synthesized tone. The same button changes as well. Stanley Parable credits. We saw those already earlier. I believe this is where we came in, isn't it? The door's gone? Pretty sure that's where we came down to start with. The office. Maintenance room. An early version of the maintenance room. I haven't been there yet. So there is still something for me to do on the right side. It was playing solitaire. Boss's office. Screens from the development of the boss's office. The middle one is the one that it ended up being like most. I'll go the dark foreboding hallway. Underground. An early version of the underground portion of the game. Yeah, I preferred the way they done it.
Stanley stood on the roof. Stanley stood on the stairs.
Why is his voice so quiet now? Narration outtakes. Kevin Brighting. The voice of the narrator recorded dialogue for the entire game roughly 3 separate times over 2 years of development.
Stanley walked over the bridge.
What bridge? These are clips.
Were all of his co-workers. Oh, I don't know. How about they're throwing a surprise party for him for all his button pushing? Does that sound plausible to you? See how it's impossible for the player to do anything in this room. Perfect example of poor level design, textbook mistake. It's the kind of thing you pick up on intuitively if you had even the most fundamental understanding of good and bad. Stanley pushed.
I wish I left some of these lines in.
Probably spend the next game trying to solve it. He traveled here. I'm just going to make this equal top of the facility.
These are clips from early takes that were not used in the final game.
Now then, this elevator for sure would get him right back on track to where he was supposed to be in the story.
Employee lounge. Freedom ending. Haven't seen that yet. This was the very first incarnation of the freedom ending in the game's alpha. Haven't seen that one yet. Countdown desk. One of the desks from an early version of the countdown ending. Countdown ending? Freedom ending again. This is the freedom ending as it existed in beta. That one's decent. Monitor room elevator. I haven't been to the monitor room at all. For a time, the elevator in the monitor room could go up or down, with freedom above and countdown below. We abandoned this when players found it too difficult to remember what was up and what was down, and placed the two endings together instead. Countdown room, an early version of the countdown room. I'm still yet to see that room.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free.
I think that one kind of sounds like it would lead to the end. Zending. This screenshot depicts an early version of the ending known as the Zending, which was eventually cut and merged with another part of the game. I don't recognize that at all. What other part of the game? Zending model. The Zending went through many iterations. This room represents the 4th version of the ending, and we thought it was complete, but decided to abandon and change it again shortly before launch. The game is now paused. Begin the game again. Resume the game. Options. Return to menu. Escape menu. For a long time, we had an ending that only ended when the player restarted from the escape menu. Unfortunately, very few players realized this was what they were supposed to do, which was frustrating for everyone. So I guess they cut it. Has the game crashed? Uh-oh. I think the game's crashed. Damn. Come on, game. Yep, not responding. Damn. Let's try again.
This is the story of a...
We have seen all that.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
I wasn't done in that room, so I'm going to go back there.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music. Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Looks like you can clear this pretty quick.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
There's more I want to see this way. And I'm stuck again.
Whirred into motion, and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise. He reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body.
I disagree.
Killing him instantly. And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Already dead? Alien belt. Alien base. Awesome. Warzone. What the? Warzone. Early in development, we designed an ending where Stanley would end up on a battlefield fighting aliens. The action game would become sentient and would wage war against the narrator. We realized shortly after starting to build it that it was far too jokey and on the nose for the tone of the game. This game's all about the jokes. Plus, some people interpreted it as making fun of people who like shooters, which was not our intention. You sure? Would have been cool to have that ending. These are screenshots of the Stanley Parable HD remix. More endings, fewer endings, more narrators, fewer narrators, more Stanley, less Stanley. Am I going crazy? Maybe it isn't the same image. Was that clock there before? I don't remember. How do I go back? Can you check for me? The point of the Stanley Parable HD remix is to win. The point of the Stanley Parable HD remix is to lose. Larger words, words. Can't see the images because of all this text. If someone could just get rid of the text, maybe then I could see what the game is about. True. The Lounge. An early version of The Lounge. From James. Subject, love the game. Greetings. Why did it change? From Sylvia, final warning. This is a skeleton of you. These move too fast. Narrator emails. After the second trailer we sent out, we asked people to email the narrator for questions. While we had initially planned to use these in further promotional materials, we never found the perfect use for them. Here are a selection of those emails. Will the game feature capybaras? Quackster. Ben Steger. How do you type with boxing gloves on? Could you tell me what the significance of the number 1112800 is? What is this strange number? I have a question for you, sir, and it is what is your message for today? Oh. How is the game going? I hope it's as good or better than the first one. No one's too long, I won't get through it. The cargo lift. This second version is functionally the same as what's in the final game, but we wanted it to look more like a place where cargo was actually stored. The cargo lift was always intended to offer the choice of staying on or jumping to a different path. However, after this early version was decided, we also wanted the option of the player falling to their death. Meeting room. They could have had that projector doing something. Number 1 option. Number 2 option. The other entrance would be hidden depending on how you entered. I like that idea. I can't see the small text on the top ones. Third. One doorway to maintenance in the lounge and the original back on track option. The confusion ending. Gotta do that. Vent. What about this? Looks like there is a confusion ending. Option 2 is the only one that doesn't have a confusion ending. Maintenance layout. The flow of hallways following the first 2 doors was important to get right, since players will replay them so many times. We discussed a number of designs, but ultimately it was the simplest version that won out. And which is the simplest? I'm guessing it has to either be 1 or 3. Here's this room again. And it's crashed again. So it doesn't like this way. Now I know we can't go that way. Annoyingly. Galactic Cafe. I just noticed that image there has the mouse on the screen where my mouse is. Nice.